Kiefer, brilliant to welcome you here to Football Fun Factory HQ today for your onboarding as a management franchisee. Really exciting times. But to start with, I'd like to take you back to your early experiences playing football, falling in love with football. Where did it all happen for you?
Yeah, so I was born in Liverpool and grew up there until I was around 5 or 6. So my childhood experiences of football, I don't have particular memories where I remember like a moment falling in love with football. But as a kid, I was always in Liverpool tops. I was always in football tops. Like I would have jerseys from everywhere. Funny, I found a picture this morning of me in a Brazilian top with Ronaldo on the back from the 2002 World Cup. And I had the Ronaldo fringe as well, which probably wasn't as good. Like I was just always was sort of not involved in football, but always had football tops on, was kicking footballs around, there was goals in the garden, so it was always just something that was really present in my early childhood and present in my life. And then as I got older, obviously started playing football like most kids do, and really enjoying that and playing with friends.
Can you speak about like Gaelic football? That was a massive passion of yours, playing the game back then. What was like as a young boy, the ambition? Was it to become a professional Gaelic footballer, or was it always around sort of just the enjoyment of the game, of the sports?
So Gaelic football is a little bit different than football in terms of like, you play for your local club, that's where you grew up. Anyone that lives in that area plays for that club. You don't go and play for this club because they're a little bit better or whatever it might be. They're all amateurs as well, so even at the highest level of Gaelic football, like no one gets paid, but then on All-Ireland final day, you've got 90,000 people watching school teachers and they're playing in front of these massive crowds. So for me, that was always a huge ambition as a kid. Like everyone grows up looking to play in those environments. That would have been incredible. Unlike yourself, Luke, I was probably a bang average player in terms of Gaelic football. In terms of Gaelic football and football. And as I was about sort of 14, 15, 16, I loved playing, really enjoyed it, playing football and Gaelic football, but then got sucked into volunteering and helping out at the younger teams, and then very quickly I realised that's what I wanted to do more so than play, was just coach and be involved and try and coach children.
That's really interesting in terms of from such a young age that you took an interest in coaching. You spoke about your dad sort of running teams, being involved in all that. Is that where that may have come from in them younger years?
I think so. Like for us, growing up in the house, dad was always out every night of the week, sort of, and still is at the minute. It drives my mum mad. So he'll be out at the minute volunteering alongside his full-time job, and is so engrossed in the club and the community, and gives up his time to deliver whatever it might be. So he's been secretary of the club, he's coached the senior team, he's coached underage teams, he now works sort of with the county and things like that. But it's just so engrossed in that volunteering, going out of your way to step up and to deliver something and give something back to the community. So it was almost like when it got to a point where I was old enough to be able to coach, it wasn't it was that's what you do, you go and coach now that you can do it.
And was that always the ambition then, from sort of your first experiences taking sessions, leading sessions, that this is what I want to make a career out of, I want to be a coach?
Probably not. So again, back to that volunteering aspect, everyone sort of in coaching roles in Northern Ireland in particular, it was all voluntary, so you just give up your time for your club because that's where you live. You love the people there, you love the club, you love the community. So coaching as this paid role wasn't a thing, wasn't an idea. So it was just, for me, it was that's what you done. You got out of the house and you went and coached if you could. You just went and done that, or you've done something in the club and you give up your time no matter what it was. So coaching for me, I fell in love with, I loved it, but it was never something I thought could be my career. So I actually went then and done marketing at uni, just because I thought I had to pick something, and it seemed to be flavour of our year group. If you didn't know what you'd done, you went and done marketing. And then when I finished that, it's quite a longer story, but I then ended up moving to Cyprus for a year with Tasha, my partner. And when we moved back, then we decided to move to England, to Sydney. It's where she's from, instead of me going back to Northern Ireland. And I applied for loads of marketing jobs. So I applied for maybe 20 marketing jobs. I didn't get any emails back, any interviews, nothing. And then there was one coaching job that popped up, and I'd done a bit of coaching as part-time jobs and stuff, and obviously within the club, voluntary, and had my qualifications. So I put in for that job and got a phone call, got an interview, and then within about a week was working at Cambridge United Football Club.
Oh, so marketing's loss was Cambridge United's gain at the time, and you went in at Cambridge coaching the younger children in that role?
Yeah, so went in as first of all a part-time schools coach. So part-time schools coach delivering everything. I think one of my first lessons was with Maddie Hennigan, who's now a Football Fun Factory head coach and franchisee, and we delivered gymnastics to like a year 5 group. I had no idea what I was doing. He probably had even less than no idea. Like between us we got through it, but we weren't gymnastics coaches. But that was it. Like for a couple of months I'd done that. I went around schools and I'd be delivering fencing, gymnastics, like any hockey, anything you could think of. Probably everything but football.
Right.
And then a full-time job came up, so it was a little bit of schoolwork, but then it was also coaching in the development centres, which Johnny Martin was then heading up, and that's really how I then got more involved in the actual football coaching. Was Johnny just giving me opportunities to coach at different sessions.
Fantastic. So you went into the schools delivering a whole host of different sports, but football was always the passion. That's what you love, delivering football sessions.
100%. Like for me, like I'd just loved football, so I'd watch football all the time. I'd be reading books about football, like going scrolling through Twitter, and like with your friends, like that's the conversations that you have is all around football. I remember my first part-time job I ever got was in Argos, and it was a Christmas temporary job, and I got the job because I sat down with the manager and we were going through, and I asked him what football team he supported, and he ended up, he was a Liverpool fan, and we started talking about Liverpool.
That must have been
and
terrible.
And he must have felt sorry for me and he gave me a job. But I always remember doing that interview, and I'm convinced the only reason I got the job is because we spoke about football and we had that chat and that thing in common. And then funny, I lost the job because I took Christmas off to go watch Liverpool play. But I just love football. I love going to football games. Like I'm a massive Liverpool fan, but it wasn't even just watching Liverpool or going to Liverpool games. I'd watch anything, and I'd watch anything on TV, or we'd go and we'd watch local games.
So like you say, to go as far as possible. And so obviously you've moved over to England, you've got the job at Cambridge. What is, like a young man living in England now, what was the ambition? What did you want to do long term? Yeah,
I think for me it's probably different than other people in terms of like I very much fell into it. So I fell into the role at Cambridge, and like I count myself really lucky, so even to be where I am now, but like lots of things sort of happened that I'll put down to luck that ended up getting me into a position. So again, I was a Liverpool fan, massive Liverpool fan, you know, Jez George, who was the CEO, he was a massive Liverpool fan, and like we ended up having that connection because we were both Liverpool fans, and that opened opportunities for me as well then, because other roles became available and I was maybe in a position where I hadn't been there that long, or maybe wasn't as experienced, but because I got myself around people who were higher up in the club and built a relationship with them, it opened opportunities for me. So I ended up then becoming an academy coach and working again closely with Johnny Martin, and I just ended up getting more and more opportunities and more chances. To be honest, I very much was probably looking at what Johnny had done in terms of his journey, looking at that thinking like that's what I could do, like I could just follow that.
You followed Johnny's lead again. Johnny came across with James to the Football Fun Factory, and before long you found yourself joining the team. What was the sort of drivers behind that? Yeah,
so probably a few things. So number one, again, like the people involved. So James and Johnny, and James had worked at Cambridge as well, so I knew a little bit of James. I was obviously very close with Johnny and thought that he was always incredible in everything that he'd done, so I knew that if I could attach myself to him wherever he went, if I could tag along, I'd be successful. One of the big driving points was the people that was involved. I just looked at you three and thought like whatever these guys do is going to absolutely bang and go and be incredible. So that was like, I was no doubt that was something I wanted to be involved in.
Brilliant.
I'd also worked at Cambridge for probably 4 or 5 years at that point, 4.5 years, and was just becoming a bit disillusioned with everything in terms of like when I got into coaching, as I spoke about at the start, like my real love was just being able to do something for the community and give back to children and give them an opportunity to play. And that Gaelic football environment where there's no academies, there is like levels and stuff, but everyone who wants to play comes and plays, and there's a place for them.
Yeah.
And in academy football, that's not true. Just obviously with the environment that it is, they take the best children and they put them into the academy and they get all these brilliant experiences. But there's so many other children who then don't get opportunities like that, so they don't get opportunities to get coached by brilliant coaches who really love what they're doing. They don't get opportunities to go to all these different places, to make all these new friends, to fall in love with football and be blown away by the power of football. And I was really just sick of turning people down and saying, no, we can't take you because you're not not good enough, or we don't have room, or whatever it might be. And
it's such an incredible journey that you've had to get to the point now you've run an amazingly successful franchise within St Neots and what you've built there, and now to come on board as a management franchisee to offer even more experiences to children. But it was always about, from your early experiences in coaching, was giving the opportunity in Gaelic football, and a lot of coaches go into development football, professional football clubs and whatnot, then see that as their pathway. But it's so sort of great to hear that you've always had that vision, that it was always about opportunity and children just playing the sport.